Today we're talking about how to trace phenotype patterns through family trees. We're doing this so we can predict the genotypes of individuals. Their success criteria for today is being able to read pedigrees. So human genetics are a bit trickier than fruit fly genetics, as one would expect. We are both more complicated organisms in that we have more genetic material, as well as we have more chromosomes. In addition to that, lots of fruit fly traits, lots of pea plants, they use very simple Mendelian traits that humans often don't. So the way that we arrange our analysis of humans is through family trees, and we specifically call these pedigrees. Pedigrees both help us understand the past as well as make predictions about the future. Most of the time, because human genetics can be so complex, we only track one trait at a time through a pedigree. It is possible to do it using two, but it's very uncommon. And it's important to remember when you're looking at a pedigree that pedigrees only track the phenotypes. The genotypes are going to be implied by the pedigree, but they are not often explicitly stated. So we have to do a little bit of logical deduction in order to figure out what the genotypes are. We can trace pedigrees of autosomal traits that are not sex-linked. They can be dominant or recessive, or we can use it to track sex-linked traits as well. And we always have to remember that each individual in a pedigree has two alleles. So these are the common symbols that we will see on a pedigree. The most important ones are the square and the circle. Square is used to denote individuals who are chromosomally male. Circles will be used to indicate individuals who are chromosomally female. Oftentimes a line between them will be described as marriage, but really what it is it's mating. These two individuals have produced offspring together. Sometimes, if they are closely related individuals and there's inbreeding going on, they will be indicated with a double line connecting them. And then the way that we number off individuals is we number the generations by using Roman numerals, and we number the birth order in that generation with our traditional Arabic numbers. We always try to put the oldest individual on the left-hand side and then the youngest individual on the right-hand side. So it shows the order of birth in addition to showing the gender and the number of siblings. You'll also notice that there are two ways of indicating twins. You don't always draw a line between identical twins, but it is a standard practice. And the reason that we draw a line between identical twins is to indicate that they are genetically the same individual. And then non-identical twins we just show coming from the same point to indicate they were born at the same time. If an individual has a particular phenotype, we will color their shape solid. If they're a known heterozygote, sometimes they get half colored, but this is not always a thing, so you can't rely on it. Same thing with X-linked recessive traits, because those only show up in females. Sometimes there'll be a dot in the middle of the circle to indicate that they're a carrier, but that is not always a given thing. We also sometimes will indicate a deceased individual with a slash through the symbol. And if we don't know the gender of an individual, either because we have incomplete records looking into the past, or because they died very, very young, we might use a diamond. Now, I am going to go into some sample problems once we talk through what different inheritance patterns look like in pedigrees, but here are two example pedigrees, just to give you an idea of what they look like. And the big thing that you might notice with these two traits, on the left we have a dominant trait, on the right we have a recessive trait. the dominant traits do not skip generations. One of the parents always passes down the dominant trait to any offspring who has the dominant phenotype. So in individual 2-4, which is right here, we know the dominant allele came from the father and the recessive allele came from the mother. In the recessive traits, on the other hand, on the right-hand side, you can see that two individuals who don't have a particular phenotype can have an offspring who do have that phenotype. And that's because those are heterozygotes. They are carriers, so they can hide the recessive phenotype, which can then emerge in their children.